Hello and welcome back to Bitesize Boxing. So, sorry for the slightly impromptu and strange setup we got going on today. I'm actually travelling at the moment, hence for the lack of content. I'm actually out in the middle of Asia and I'm going to be here for a couple of weeks, hence why I haven't been uploading. So, left about 5 or 6 days ago. First day or two, you're just travelling. So, that was those 2 days. Then the last sort of 3 or 4 days, jet lag's been kicking my ass, and I was in the city for the first sort of 2 or 3 days. So now I'm in the countryside. It's a bit quieter. You don't have, horns bobbing and beeping all in the background. So I thought we'd get something out today while I'm feeling a little bit less shit than I have been. So we're going to be talking about the Jermaine Franklin Moses Itauma fight that has just been announced. For starters, I actually think this is a pretty good step up for Moses Itauma. If you hop back to my post-fight for Moses' last fight against Dillian Whyte, this was the fight that I was calling for. I did say there were a lot of people who were saying, right, that's it, it's Filip Hrgović next, Hrgović or bust. I was one of the relatively few who was saying, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. Yes, that's a good performance, but it's against a shot Dillian Whyte, who looked to me like he went into that fight knowing he wasn't going to win. I was calling for a fighter like Jermaine Franklin. I think even I said Franklin would be my ideal opponent. So for me, this is perfectly acceptable. I'm very happy with Jermaine Franklin. What I would say is that Ivan Ditchko fight now has an even bigger eyebrow raise than it had at the time. A lot of people, myself included, speculated that the incredibly dubious nature of that decision stunk of, there is a potential big fight in the pipeline and we don't want to mess it up, so let's give him the decision, because he did not win that fight. That Ivan Ditchko fight with Jermaine Franklin was one of the worst robberies we've seen this year. Up there with the Joshua Buatsi Parker fight that we saw a couple of weeks ago, actually. But I would argue that the Franklin fight was actually worse, because Franklin looked completely out of shape in that fight. He looked out of sorts. He looked out of ideas. At least with the Parker fight, you can make the argument, although I don't think Joshua Buatsi won that fight, at least you can make the argument that Parker was fouling a lot, mauling and dirty boxing, and he shouldn't have won on that merit. Whereas in the Ivan Ditchko fight, he did a better holding, but generally speaking, he was doing the far cleaner work and he was just more busy. So it now is one of those, you do look back and you think, I think maybe we have an idea as to why he got that decision. I think, if you're asking my opinion, I think Jermaine Franklin was probably one of those guys who was in contention. I don't think he was necessarily the front runner for Moses Itauma next, but he was probably one of those guys who was in contention. And so, to not scupper things, to leave the door open, because if it hadn't been Itauma, it probably would have been another half-decent name next for someone like, Franklin. He's a good trial horse. He would have gone in there against another perennial top 25 guy, someone like that, or someone who needs stepping up. So he was always going to be given that opportunity. Hence why you've got someone like Ivan Ditchko, who just isn't as marketable, even if he is a better heavyweight. Whether you think he is or not, that's up for debate. I think it was probably clear in that last fight that I think he is a bit better than Franklin, but Franklin has attributes that Ditchko doesn't, in my opinion. For me, as I said in my post-fight for Itauma Whyte, the reason I wanted to see Itauma in against Jermaine Franklin is that Jermaine Franklin is teak tough. Jermaine Franklin will take you the rounds. Jermaine Franklin is not a big puncher, so you don't have to worry there about, Itauma getting cleaned out early or anything like that. You're not rolling the dice in that regard. But Itauma is going to be in there with a guy who's tricky, who's awkward, who's going to be able to pose questions, and is going to be able to probably take him into places he hasn't necessarily been thus far, but he's not going to be testing him too hard. Jermaine Franklin isn't going to be making you work. He's not going to be putting together flashy combinations, body to head, stunning you, quick uppercuts and quadruple uppercuts, all this kind of stuff. That's not Jermaine Franklin's bag. Jermaine Franklin is just a steady, good, all-round boxer who's tough, who knows how to look after himself. As I've said previously, I've known about Jermaine Franklin going back about 8, 9, 10 years now. And the reason that I always knew that this guy was going to get to a certain level, because you get these sort of American names that come in that you hear about. I think about that guy, what was his name? Mack Truck or something? Was he Dakari Scott? I think about some of the other ones. Is it something Shaw, Stephen Shaw? You get these random American heavyweights who here has a fan base and they're going to be something. But a lot of the time, they're not that great. They're kind of just club fighters. But the reason I knew that Jermaine Franklin was a bit different to that is that this is a guy who'd been basically brought in and hung around the American gyms for years. So I've heard about this guy, you know, hanging around everyone who's anyone's gym for the last 10 years. And you don't keep getting invited back to those gyms if you're rubbish. And if you'll keep getting invited back to those gyms, that means you know and you learn how to look after yourself. He's kind of got that more skilled Dave Allen look to him. In that, you know, Dave Allen has those slightly cute looks where he can look after himself in there. He's almost like a better version of that. You know, Jermaine Franklin knows how to navigate the rounds. He knows how to make it, you know, so he's not going to get knocked out or cleaned out early. He can just look after himself, and that's exactly what Moses Itauma needs. He's not going to beat Moses Itauma, but he's going to pose questions and he's going to do things in there that, for me, I think Moses needs. Probably will take him the distance. I think if he stops Jermaine Franklin, that is a statement. I don't necessarily expect him to do so. But again, even if, you know, if I don't know if it's a 10 or 12 rounder, I haven't actually checked, to be honest, but say it's a 10 rounder, if it goes to 10 rounds, that's not a disaster. That's all experience, you know, that's money in the bank as far as I'm concerned. So look, this is a win-win fight. I think this is a perfect next step. And look, for all of the criticisms we have of Frank Warren, he knows how to build a fighter. And for me, I don't think you could get a better next opponent than Jermaine Franklin. So you let me know what you think. Sorry for the kind of haphazard setup here. It's going to be changing, I'm sure. The next video you see may well be a different background as well. But we just got to roll with it. And providing things are all good this end and nothing crazy happens, I will keep the content coming. I will be doing something for Conor Benn, Chris Eubank as well, because that's coming up as well this weekend, isn't it? How I'm going to watch that fight, I do not know, because I'm about, 6 or 7 hours ahead of you guys in the UK now. But we'll work it out. But anyway, look after yourself, guys. Cheers for keeping in and tuning in. I understand I've been a bit inactive, so thank you for not all dropping off and unsubscribing. I do appreciate it. We'll keep it rolling, and of course, when we are full-time back in the UK in about a week, 10 days' time, we'll keep it properly rolling from there, and you'll get the normal, you know, multiple videos a week. But while we're out here, we'll do what we can do, but I will still keep filling you in. So thank you very much. Take it easy, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.